All right. Welcome back, everybody. Today we're diving deep into, a childhood favorite for a lot of us.
For sure.
A Goofy movie. And, what's really cool is you guys have actually given us the screenplay for the movie.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to go way beyond, the nostalgia and really dig into, like, the structure of the story, the characters.
Right.
All those little moments that make a Goofy movie so memorable, right?
It's true. I mean, I think we often watch these movies just for pure entertainment.
Right.
But to have the screenplay, like you said, really allows us to appreciate, like, the craft behind all those laughs and heartwarming moments,
Yeah.
Like, there's layers here.
Yeah, and it's not just all, silly gags. Like, there's some
Okay.
actual depth to this film.
Absolutely.
So, okay, let's just jump right in. I mean, like, literally jump in. Because Max's opening dream sequence
Oh, yeah.
kind of throws us right into the core conflict of the movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's in this peaceful wheat field. Roxanne's floating by. It's all sunshine and rainbows. And then, bam,
Yeah.
thorns, darkness. And he's morphing into Goofy.
I love that. It's so effective. And even the music in that scene
Oh, yeah.
goes from, like, this grand orchestral sound to something much darker. The screenplay actually, like, it specifies a distorted minor key version of,
wow.
of the previous theme. And it's just, like, really drives home Max's fear.
Yeah, and it's not just the fear of turning into his dad physically, right?
Right.
It's deeper than that.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what is it really about, do you think?
It's really like a visual representation of his anxiety about losing his identity, because becoming his dad in Max's eyes, it means becoming like the laughingstock, the goof, right?
Oof, yeah.
It's like his nightmare is literally coming true,
Right.
which makes, after today, that next scene
Oh, yeah.
so poignant, right?
And it's so energetic.
Yes.
It's this big musical number.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying so hard to be cool. Is to impress Roxanne.
Yeah.
The screenplay even describes him, like, bumping into things, slipping on marbles. Like,
Right.
this clumsiness is part of his, like, goofiness he's trying to escape.
It's a physical manifestation of it.
Right.
Absolutely. And that line, she looked right through me, and who could blame her? I need a new me.
Oh, yeah.
That's not just a teenager talking.
Yeah.
Like, that's Max literally stating the central conflict of the movie.
Right.
He thinks that the goofiness is like this barrier between him and everything he wants.
And that's
Which brings us to Powerline.
Powerline. Yes. Oh my gosh, he's like
He is the symbol of cool
the ultimate symbol of cool
in this film.
in Max's world. Like, he's not just a singer, he's like
Right.
a god to this kid. And you see it in that scene at the music store where Stacy and her friend are like
Oh, yeah.
fawning over the Powerline display. Like, Max thinks if he could just be Powerline,
Right.
then Roxanne will finally.
Yeah, and that's where the screenplay really cleverly taps into that, I think. Universal experience of
Teenage idol worship.
teenage idol worship. I mean,
Like, so-
remember those posters on your wall? Like,
Yeah.
Max is looking for a model, someone to emulate, and he thinks that's the key to acceptance,
Right.
especially from somebody like Roxanne.
And then, of course, in true Goofy movie fashion, things go
Hilarious.
hilariously off the rails, right?
Dude,
With the
oh my God.
concert hijacking.
Yeah.
I mean, reading the screenplay, you can practically hear the chaos unfolding.
Absolutely.
Like, Bobby's on the cheese-fueled tech, PJ's camera work is shaky, and then Max bursts through the screen in his little homemade Powerline costume.
And what's brilliant about this is how the screenplay builds that tension through the humor. Like, there's this mounting sense of anticipation, and then the visual gags, like Mazur falling through the trapdoor.
Yeah.
Keep it light, but underneath it all, you can feel this impending doom.
Right.
And then, boom, Max is literally in the spotlight,
And Roxanne,
revealing himself to the entire school.
to her credit, doesn't recoil in horror.
No, she doesn't.
She's kind of intrigued, right?
She is.
Which, for Max, might be the most validating thing
I think so.
ever. It's like, for a brief moment, his crazy plan worked.
It did.
And he's achieved coolness by being himself, even if it's a Powerline-inspired version of himself.
Right, exactly. And of course, actions have consequences, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this leads to, well, you could say,
A goofy road trip.
a goofy road trip. The infamous cross-country fishing trip.
Oh, yeah.
It's so classic Goofy, right?
It is.
This well-meaning but completely clueless dad dragging his angst-ridden teenager on this adventure he never wanted. And then you've got the perfect cast fishing technique.
Oh, the perfect cast.
I mean, reading that scene in the screenplay, it's not just funny, it's like genius.
It's pro.
The way Goofy's dialogue is written, so earnest and enthusiastic about this.
Right.
Absurdly complicated.
Technique.
Yeah.
It really highlights, I think, the generational gap between him and Max.
For sure. It's like he's speaking a different language.
Right.
A language that revolves around Hi Dad soup.
Right.
And outdated fishing techniques.
Right. So while Goofy's trying to, bond over Hi Dad soup and the perfect cast, Max is scheming about
Oh, yeah.
how to get to that Powerline concert in LA.
Yeah.
And that's where that whole map alteration comes in. And the screenplay really emphasizes Max's internal conflict here.
Yes.
Like the pencil breaking, Goofy sleep talking, the torn up postcard. These are all visual cues that amplify his
guilt.
his growing guilt.
Right.
He's torn between, this desire to impress Roxanne
Right.
and realization that he's betraying his dad's trust.
Exactly. It's a real moral dilemma.
Yeah.
That adds depth to what could have been, just a simple comedic moment.
Right. And it makes that scene at the diner where Goofy proudly makes Max the navigator even more
Oh, yeah.
heartwarming, right?
So heartwarming.
You see how Goofy's dialogue kind of shifts?
Yeah.
He's no longer the under my thumb dad.
Right.
He's genuinely trying to empower Max.
It's a pivotal moment in their relationship.
Yeah.
Goofy is finally recognizing Max's need for independence, for agency.
Right.
Like he's letting go of control. And by doing so, he's actually opening the door for a more genuine connection.
Yeah. And that connection starts to build in that,
Oh, yeah.
just beautiful nobody else but you sequence.
I love that scene.
Where they're, driving along, they're singing along, they're acknowledging their differences, but they're also celebrating their bond.
Right.
And the screenplay does an amazing job of
Yeah.
blending that humor
Yeah.
and that pathos into the lyrics.
Absolutely.
They're poking fun at each other, but they're also expressing this deep, unbreakable connection.
Totally. And it's not just the lyrics, it's the stage directions, too. They're described as clumsily dancing, laughing at their own awkwardness.
Yeah.
It's like they're finally letting go of their inhibitions and just being themselves together.
Being themselves together.
Yeah.
So they've had their, clashes,
Yeah.
some hilarious, some heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But it feels like they're finally on the same page.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
And all this is happening before they even reach their final destination.
Right.
The Powerline concert.
The Powerline concert. But of course.
Oh, but of course.
Things can't be that easy.
Oh, no.
No, they can't.
Things can't be that easy.
The screenplay has a few more surprises in store for us and for them.
All right. Well, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I feel like you've only just begun to scratch the surface
It's only just begun.
of this, goofy masterpiece. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dissect the climax and all those other little details that make this movie so much more than just a silly cartoon.
It's so much more. As we dive back into a Goofy movie, it's important to remember that this film isn't just about Max's journey. It's about Goofy's growth as a father, too.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that phone call that he gets from Principal Mazur?
Oh, yeah.
The screenplay really highlights the, fear and helplessness a parent can feel when they think that their kid is, going down the wrong path.
Yeah, Mazur's painting Max as this, delinquent rebel without a cause, and Goofy just buys it.
Hook, line, and sinker. Yeah.
Hook, line, and sinker. He's like, I've failed as a dad.
The screenplay even describes Goofy's expression as crushed. His voice trembling as he talks to Max.
Yeah.
He's clinging to this, idealized vision of father-son bonding, thinking that a fishing trip is going to magically fix everything.
Right.
Which is, hilarious and heartbreaking because you see how desperate he is to connect with his son.
But that desperation leads to him, forcing this trip on Max rather than, actually listening to what Max wants.
Yeah.
It's like he's trying to recreate his own childhood.
Yeah, right.
Not realizing that times have changed.
Right, exactly. And that disconnect between Goofy's intentions and Max's reality is really at the heart of their conflict.
Yeah.
And the screenplay uses these comedic moments.
Right.
Goofy's disastrous attempts at the perfect cast to really highlight how out of touch he is with his teenage son.
Yeah. It's like they're speaking two different languages.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it leads to that pivotal scene at the waterfall where everything comes crashing down.
Oh, yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively. The screenplay describes it as chaotic, with the RV teetering on the edge.
Oh, yeah.
Goofy and Max are screaming in terror.
Yeah. It's this moment of, pure vulnerability.
Yeah.
Where those walls they've built up just completely crumble. They're forced to confront like their fears, their frustrations,
Yeah.
and ultimately their love for each other.
And it's in that shared experience of near death, that Goofy finally starts to see Max as an individual,
Right.
not just an extension of himself.
Right.
He lets go of his preconceived notions about what the trip should be, and he starts to listen to what Max needs.
Which leads to that moment where Goofy helps Max get to the Powerline concert, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, he puts aside his own desires, his own anxieties to support his son's dream,
I know.
even though it seems
crazy and reckless.
crazy and reckless, right?
The screenplay describes Goofy's expression as determined and proud as he's, driving that beat-up car towards L.A.
Yeah. It's like he finally understands that being a good dad isn't about controlling your child.
Right.
It's about supporting them.
Yes.
Even if it means letting go of your own expectations.
Yeah.
Such a powerful message.
It is.
About love and understanding. And you know what? It's not just Goofy who transforms throughout the film.
Right.
Max learns a lot about himself, too.
Yeah. Remember that scene where he confesses to Roxanne
Oh, boy.
about lying to her?
Yeah.
The screenplay describes him as ashamed and remorseful, realizing that true connection is built on honesty, not elaborate schemes.
It's such a valuable lesson
It is.
about integrity and responsibility.
Yeah. And this newfound maturity is reflected in the climax at the Powerline concert.
Oh, yeah.
Remember how in his dream Max was horrified to transform into Goofy?
Right.
But in the concert scene, the screenplay describes him as exuberant, joyful.
Yeah.
As he ends up on stage dancing alongside his dad.
It's like he's come full circle,
Yes.
He's embracing that connection.
Yeah.
Even in front of the entire school.
Yes.
He's no longer afraid of being seen as Goofy.
Right.
Because he realizes that, being true to himself is more important than
fitting in.
than fitting in. And the fact that they're dancing to Eye to Eye,
Oh, yeah.
a song about understanding, seeing each other's perspectives.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
The screenplay uses the music to underscore this moment of reconciliation.
Yeah.
This newfound respect and love between father and son.
It's so
It's beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
It is.
It's really a testament to the power of communication,
Yeah.
forgiveness, and that
An unbreakable bond.
unbreakable bond between parent and child.
No matter how goofy things might get.
No matter how goofy things might get. And even though the film focuses on this father-son relationship, it also explores other important themes.
Oh, yeah.
Like friendship, the challenges of adolescence.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of friendship,
Yes.
can we talk about the amazing supporting characters?
Oh, yeah.
They add so much
Depth and humor.
depth and humor to this story.
Right. They really do. I mean, take Pete, for instance.
Yeah. Oh, Pete.
He is the quintessential overbearing dad.
Oh, yeah.
Always trying to control his son, KJ. And he's the perfect foil to Goofy's more laid-back approach to parenting.
Yeah, Pete's under my thumb philosophy
Right.
is in such stark contrast to Goofy's willingness to let Max find his own way, even if it means making mistakes along the way.
Right. And PJ, bless his heart.
Oh, PJ.
He is just the ultimate loyal sidekick.
Oh, he is.
Always there for Max, even when his schemes are totally outlandish.
And the screenplay describes PJ as nervous and easily flustered,
Yes.
but he never wavers in his support for Max.
Right. He's that voice of reason, reminding Max of the potential consequences.
Right.
But ultimately, he's always there to lend a helping hand.
And what about Roxanne?
Oh, Roxanne.
She's not just a love interest.
Right.
She's a well-developed character.
She is.
With her own, opinions,
Yeah,
aspirations. Remember that scene where Max tries to impress her with all his, fabricated stories? Mm-hmm. The screenplay shows how unimpressed she is.
She is not easily fooled by superficial displays of coolness.
Right.
She sees through Max's facade
Yeah.
and challenges him to be a better version of himself.
Yeah, she values authenticity over those, empty boasts.
Absolutely.
It's so refreshing to see, a female character in an animated film
Yeah.
who's not just, a damsel in distress.
Right.
Or a prize to be won.
Right. She's got her own agency.
Yeah.
She makes her own choices. And that's something we can all appreciate.
And the fact that she ultimately, forgives Max for his lies
Yeah,
speaks volumes about her character.
absolutely.
She sees the good in him
Yeah.
even when he makes mistakes.
Right.
And that's such a powerful message about compassion and second chances.
It is. It's like the film is reminding us that everybody deserves a chance to redeem themselves,
Right.
to grow, and to learn from their experiences.
And that growth often happens
Yeah.
through those like unexpected
Twists and turns.
twists and turns in life.
Yeah, just like the ones Goofy and Max encounter.
Oh, speaking of crazy road trips, can we talk about that scene where they end up at
Oh my God.
Lester's Possum Park?
Lester's Possum Park.
I mean, this screenplay describes it as this
Bizarre.
Bizarre.
Over the top.
over-the-top tourist trap.
With singing possums.
Singing possum.
A giant, cheesy statue.
It's so...
It's classic a Goofy movie absurdity.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a perfect example of how the film blends humor and satire.
Yes.
Like poking fun at those
Roadside attractions.
roadside attractions that promise, adventure,
Right.
but deliver something
Completely different.
completely different.
And it's in those moments of absurdity, of shared laughter, that Goofy and Max really begin to connect.
Yeah, it's like those awkward,
Yeah.
embarrassing moments that
Yes.
make you cringe in real life.
Right.
They become these like shared memory that bond people together.
Yeah.
And a Goofy movie captures that so well.
And even though the film is filled with these wacky scenarios,
Yeah.
it also has those moments of genuine tenderness.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that scene where Goofy reads Max's letter at the campfire?
Oh, my gosh.
The screenplay describes Goofy's voice as soft and full of emotion.
Yeah.
As he realizes how much his son truly cares for him.
That scene always gets me. It's just so
It's beautiful.
beautiful. Yeah.
It is.
It's like Goofy's tough exterior just melts away, and you see like the depth of his love for Max.
It's a reminder that even the most stoic, Goofy dads
Yeah.
have hearts of gold.
Okay, so we've talked about the emotional depth, the humor,
Yes.
the memorable characters,
Yeah.
but we haven't even touched on the music.
Oh, the music.
And I mean, come on, a Goofy movie has some serious
Bunch of tunes.
digitunes.
The music is like integral to the storytelling.
Oh, it is.
In this film. Each song not only advances the plot, but reveals something about the characters' inner lives and emotions.
Like, for example, On the Open Road.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly captures that feeling of like freedom and adventure
Freedom.
that Goofy is so desperate for.
Yes.
Yes.
And Standout is basically Max's anthem,
Oh, yeah.
his declaration that he wants to be seen, to be noticed,
All right.
to break free from this perceived goofiness.
Right, right. And then you have like the more heartfelt songs like Nobody Else But You,
Oh, yeah.
which beautifully expresses that,
That bond.
that unwavering bond between them.
Despite their differences.
Right.
The music in a Goofy movie is like a character in itself.
It is.
It adds so much emotion and depth.
It's one of those soundtracks that like you can listen to years later
Yeah.
and just be transported back to that world,
Absolutely.
to those characters, those feelings,
Absolutely.
And speaking of being transported back, there's one scene in particular
Oh, yeah.
that really stands out to me as like a testament to the film's visual storytelling. Remember when Goofy and Max are driving through the countryside
Yeah.
and they stumble upon that world's largest ball of twine attraction?
Oh, yes.
Right.
Classic a Goofy movie absurdity.
A classic, a Goofy movie absurdity. The screenplay describes this like
Gigantic,
precariously balanced.
precariously balanced ball of twine.
And of course, Goofy is completely enthralled by it.
Of course he is.
But what's interesting is how the scene is framed.
Oh, yeah.
Visually, the screenplay calls for a wide shot,
Oh, yeah.
showing the vastness of the landscape and then this like ridiculously small car
Yeah.
with these two tiny figures
Right.
standing next to this massive,
Yeah.
seemingly insignificant
Right.
ball of twine.
It's like they're playing with scale and perspective, right?
Yeah.
Reminding us that even in like the grand scheme of things, our individual experiences,
Our relationships,
right?
our little balls of twine
Yes.
can hold like immense significance.
Right.
It's a subtle but powerful message about finding meaning and connection
Yeah.
in like the seemingly mundane, the unexpected,
The goofy moments of life.
the goofy moments of life.
And isn't that what a Goofy movie is all about?
Yeah.
Finding joy and connection in the midst of chaos. learning to embrace our imperfections.
Right.
And celebrating that love
Yeah.
that binds us together.
Even when it's tested by the most
Ridiculous circumstances.
ridiculous circumstances. Right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of fun, we can't wrap up this like deep dive without talking about the animation itself.
Oh, the animation.
I mean, a Goofy movie is a visual feast.
It is.
The characters are so expressive, the movement's so fluid, the backgrounds are like filled with these vibrant colors and details.
Yeah. The animation style perfectly complements like the lighthearted tone,
Right.
the wacky sense of humor, you know. The characters are like exaggerated, almost cartoony,
Yeah.
which allows for some, you know, truly hilarious physical comedy.
Yeah.
And the animators do an incredible job of conveying emotion
Oh, yeah.
through like subtle facial expressions,
Right.
gestures.
You could practically feel Goofy's like exasperation
Yes.
when Max messes up the perfect cast.
Right.
Or like his overwhelming joy when he sees Max on stage with Powerline.
Yeah. And the background artists deserve a shout out too. I mean, they've created this like rich, detailed world that's both familiar and fantastical, from the bustling streets of LA
Yeah.
to the, you know, quirky roadside attractions along the way. The environments are just like brimming with personality.
Like each frame is a work of art, right?
It is.
Filled with these like hidden details that you might not even catch
Yeah.
on the first viewing.
That's the beauty of a Goofy movie. There's
Yeah.
always something new to discover, something to laugh at, something to appreciate.
Right.
It's a film that can be enjoyed on multiple levels.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Whether you're, you know, a child experiencing it for the first time or an adult revisiting it
Yeah.
with a newfound appreciation.
And I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
But I'm sure there are still plenty of goofy details and hidden gems waiting to be unearthed.
Absolutely. And that's what makes it so rewarding to revisit. It's like peeling back the layers of an onion,
Right.
each layer revealing something new and surprising.
You know, and even though we've reached like the end of our deep dive,
Yeah.
I have a feeling we'll be talking about a Goofy movie for years to come.
I think so too.
It's one of those films that just stays with you,
Yeah.
reminding you to, you know, embrace your inner goofball,
Yeah.
cherish your loved ones, and never stop searching for those moments of like joy and connection
That make life worth living.
that make life worth living. So, as we wrap up, what's like the one takeaway you hope our listener will remember
Oh, it's a good.
about a Goofy movie?
You know, I think it's don't be afraid to embrace your inner goof. You know, let loose, have fun.
Yeah.
Cherish those connections
Yeah.
that bring joy and laughter into your life. Because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
those are the things that truly matter.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
And on that note,
Yes.
I think it's time for us to hit the open road,
Oh, yeah.
quake up the tunes,
Let's do it.
and maybe even attempt a perfect cast ourselves.
I mean,
Who knows what adventures await?
right. Just remember to pack the cheese.
Oh, yes.
And maybe some extra maps.
Just in case.
Just in case.
Thanks for taking us on this nostalgic journey
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
through a Goofy movie. We hope you've enjoyed this deep dive as much as we have.
We'll see you next time.
And remember, folks, no matter where life takes you,
Yes.
always remember to stay goofy.
Stay goof.
It's funny. You know, we've talked about all these deeper themes in a Goofy movie and the clever writing and everything, but
Right.
sometimes it's those like little throwaway gags that really stick with you.
Oh, totally.
You know, like I was rereading the screenplay, and there's this moment at Lester's Possum Park where Goofy accidentally sets his map on fire with a hot dog.
Oh, yeah.
It's so silly,
It is.
but it cracks me up every time.
Those moments of like pure slapstick are important too.
Yeah.
You know, they provide that comedic relief. And they remind us not to take things too seriously, just like Goofy himself.
Right.
But even in those gags, the screenplay often reveals something about the characters.
Oh, yeah.
Think about Goofy's clumsiness.
Yeah.
It's not just random, it's like a visual representation of his well-meaning but sometimes, you know, bumbling nature.
Yeah.
Which makes it even funnier when he tries to teach Max the perfect cast.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the screenplay is setting us up for this hilarious clash of personalities.
Yeah.
The overly enthusiastic dad versus the too cool for school teenager.
And the beauty of the movie is that neither of them is like the villain.
Right.
They're both flawed.
Yeah.
They both make mistakes.
Yeah.
But they love each other.
I do.
Deeply. And the screenplay doesn't, shy away from showing their frustrations.
Right.
But it always comes back to that underlying bond.
The underlying bond, yeah.
And it's not just the main characters. Even the supporting cast gets these little moments to shine.
Beverly.
Remember Bobby, Max's best friend?
Oh, yeah.
He's obsessed with cheese.
I love Bobby.
And the screenplay even has a stage direction that says he smells faintly of cheddar.
I love that.
It's such a small detail.
It is.
But it adds to his, quirky charm.
It does.
And then you have PJ.
Oh, PJ.
With his, constant anxiety and shaky camera work.
Oh, yeah.
He's the perfect foil to Max's,
More impulsive
nature.
Yeah.
And the screenplay uses those contrasting personalities to highlight, the different ways teenagers cope with the pressures of growing up.
Absolutely.
It's like they represent those two sides of ourselves, right? Mm-hmm. The part that wants to rebel and the part that's scared of the consequences.
Right.
And then, of course, there's Roxanne.
Roxanne.
Who is, smart,
Yeah.
independent,
Yeah.
not afraid to call Max out on his nonsense.
She's a great example of how, female characters in these movies can be so much more than just love interests.
Right, right.
The screenplay gives her agency.
Yeah.
She makes her own decisions. And ultimately, she's the one who inspires Max to be a better person.
Speaking of inspiration, a Goofy movie
Yeah.
isn't just about, the laughs. It leaves you with this warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean.
It reminds you of the importance of family communication, embracing your true self.
It's a film that celebrates those messy, imperfect relationships that make life worth living. And it reminds us that, even when things get goofy,
As they often do.
love and laughter can help us navigate those challenges.
Right.
And come out stronger on the other side.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
what's the one takeaway you hope our listeners will remember about the Goofy movie?
I'd say it's this. Don't be afraid to embrace your inner goof.
Yeah.
Let loose, have fun, and cherish those connections that bring joy and laughter into your life.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, those are the things that truly matter.
Beautifully said.
Ah,
And on that note, I think it's time for us to hit the open road,
I'm ready.
crank up the tunes,
Yeah.
and maybe even attempt a perfect cast ourselves.
Let's do it.
Who knows what adventures await?
Right. Just remember to pack the cheese.
Oh, yes, the cheat.
And maybe some extra maps, just in case.
Just in case. Well, thanks for joining us on this nostalgic journey through a Goofy movie.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive as much as we have.
We had a blast.
And remember, folks, no matter where life takes you,
Yeah.
always remember to stay goofy.
Stay goofy.